Right, let's move it on to Rohan Wime, who asks, it's one from me, EJ, sorry, so you can stand down. If you put an average punt on an F1 car for the race distance, what would happen to them physically? And for the drivers, what's the main strength, fitness thing to keep on top of? Well, here's the thing. Okay, I'm 52 and I don't go to the gym anymore. I would last... Well, I did it actually last year. I did a filming for a documentary where I jumped in one of the V8 Formula One cars and did a single flying lap at Imola. And Max jumped in and did a single flying lap. Now, I should say, I was 51 at the time. I didn't race Imola the last 15 years. I'm giving you all the excuses, okay?
Come on, David. I'm listening.
So his one flying lap versus my one flying lap, he was 5 seconds faster. So that shows...
I think you did well, because
I was happy.
I can't believe you were that close.
Because, given that I don't race anymore, and therefore your mind goes into a different place, given that I don't have the need to hang it all out, but it just shows you the guy... He's a natural, of course he's a natural. But, so there's the thing, if I was to jump in a car now, maybe I could get that down to a couple of seconds off the pace, but there is no way I could do the same lap times as I used to do. One, just because of your decision-making capabilities, but physically, we all talk about the neck. You definitely need a strong neck to drive a Grand Prix car because you're pulling over 5G and braking and lateral load. But the other thing is the internal organs. When you're pulling G, your heart, your lungs, your stomach, anything that can move within the body does move.
At that G.
At that G. And that's why some people get nausea when they're in vehicles or aircraft. And that's the thing, that you need to have developed your physical skills all the way up through the lower formulas. So a normal person would not last 10 laps in a Grand Prix. And I'm being generous at 10.
I think 10 is over generous. And I think that, look, it's a good question. I understand it, and people want to know whether they're able to, how good are these drivers? You talk about your neck. I mean, you've never had a problem with neck, David. You've always had the hardest neck in the business. So, but anyway, leaving necks out of this.
You've got a brass neck.
I remember sitting down at a charity thing, and people criticised Roy Keane. Why don't you play? He only played for 10 minutes. And he said, because I'm retired. I don't go to the gym. I don't train every day. I don't want to look like an idiot. I was able to play with anyone when I was on top form. But that's not my game anymore. Like TV is your game, being with the BRDC, being all sorts of different things that you do. That is your game now, same as my game is my game. And, do I feel I'm fit when I'm playing the drums? I feel I'm absolutely on top of it, as well as I can be. But, what am I like? If I stop playing, I'd have to restart again, because life, look, you can never, ever put fitness in the bank. And that's a good message, I think, to reply to this.
Rohan.
So, Ronan, the question is, make sure, if you're going to be a gym bunny, make sure you keep it going at a steady rate without making yourself weary or tired or whatever it is. But please do not think that these racing drivers, current ones, can be passed by other people on the street. It's not that case.
So, leading on from that, here's a question from Barry McGee for you. He's a fellow Irishman, and he said, I loved your book. Please do another one. He wants you to do another book. Excellent. It could be a book of lies or a book of half-truths. We can think of a title.
Well, there's none of those ever true anyway. But anyway, Go on, Barry.
So his question for you is, have you ever taken any of your F1 cars for a spin over the years?
The only ever time, first of all, I'm not nostalgic and things like that. I do not have. You go to David Coulthard's house, it's a shrine. He has every trophy that he ever won. He has every help. Is that true? And your mother polishes them? And
no, not at home. We have a little museum in Scotland.
There you go. You see, folks, you heard it from me first. I'm completely the other end of the spectrum. Marie, my wife, who was an international basketball player, and so she understood about sport. And she said very clearly, when I come home in the evening after work, make sure you don't mention anything about your business or your past. No, I don't want any trophies. I don't want any hats. Paragalia, you know, all of the usual old stuff that people have around the place. Any trophy that I just spoke to Andy Stevenson, who's the guy at Aston Martin, and I remember giving him the trophy that we won by winning the Grand Prix in Italy, because he asked particularly for it, and I was delighted to give to him, and he keeps telling me and sending me photographs of it. And the reason is, I'm not a hoarder. That's my life. I've moved on. I'd much prefer to be seen with Alice Cooper or Mick Jagger or something like that, because that's my thing. Music is my thing. Whereas, you know, other people adore motoring. But the answer to the question is, I did drive, and I drove the Jordan, the green car. Gary Anderson and I wanted to give him a treat, who was the guy who designed the car, the most wonderful, most practical engineer that I've ever come across. And I gave him the car to drive up the hill at the little Goodwood, and with Charlie March, Lord March, and that was something spectacular. And that was, I think, one of the very first years of Goodwood, and that's a treasured. I do remember that, and I enjoyed it. But remember, it was gear shift. It wasn't paddle like you've never driven a car with a gear shift, and you come back with blisters, you know, the size of ball bearings on your hands. If you know what I mean. And, you know, it was a tough world then.
Yeah, it was.
You ask Prost or any of those guys, they'll tell you the gear change was so savage.
Yeah. I did actually test. My first Formula One car I tested was the 1990 McLaren V12, and it was a manual gearbox. But I never raced a Formula One car with a manual, but I did in the lower formulas.